Hey everybody, how's it going? Dan Schinder here on Drum Talk TV. Again, and yes, there's more to come. We're only halfway through the year. Are you folks ready for all this? I am thrilled to be here with Leslie Mandoki, who told us this is his groundbreaking interview debut in the Western world in the United States for this amazing, fabulous album that he has. This is called A Memory of Our Future. And I'm going to give a rundown first, but first I've got to welcome our guest, first time guest. I've been saying that a lot lately. Leslie Mandoki, how are you? All the way from Germany.
Thank you so much, Dan, for having me. And it was such a joyful moment of my life. So thank you that we can go through the music and we go through, the life is written the music. So so this is a kind of, we have only one subject. Let's talk about life and the music.
Perfect. I want to start with this, folks. The album is out. It came out in May. There's a link in the post where you can order it, but only if you either order it right after the interview so you can see the interview, or if you order it in another window while you have the interview up. You don't want to miss anything. And the lineup on this album, along with, of course, Leslie himself, Ian Anderson, Al De Meola, Mike Stern, Randy Brecker, Bill Evans, Till Bonner. We've got Tony Carey. We've got Cory Henry, Nick Van Eede, Simon Phillips, Jesse Siebenberg. We've got John Helliwell. We've got Mark.
Of Superdrum, yeah.
Yeah, it is a supergroup. Mark Hart, Julia Mandoki. I don't know how you got that hookup. Steve Bailey and Richard Bona. And, I got to tell everybody this, having listened to the album, and you met my son, our producer, Steve, before we started. And I'm so proud of him. He's listening to it on vinyl, on a vinyl record player. First of all, folks, with that lineup, I'm going to tell you right now, you have no idea what to expect. You might think with, all those fusion and jazz virtuosos, everyone's going to be soloing over everybody. There are some wonderful songs on this album that are going to get Western world radio play, some really cool videos. And the first thing I want to ask you is the technical approach to this album, Leslie. It was recorded basically all analog to tape. Like, there's people watching this that were born after tape went away. Where the F word did you find tape? And what kind of machine was it recorded on? Like, talk about that experience first. That's fascinating.
Thank you for that question, Dan. It was very simple. We were on our anniversary tour, 30 years of Soulmates. And I just kept on writing. And, Ian Anderson said, we are all aging differently. And then Tony Carey came up, from Fabulous Rainbow, from Richard Bona was there. Hammond player, and they said, Leslie, I really hate you. And I really desperately hate you.
You could tell he worked with Blackmore right away.
Sure. And I said, what's up? I said, you're writing new songs about this labyrinth of crisis where we are in, as you would be 22 or 23. So they're so full of energy. And we have to record it right away after the tour. Do you have still in your basement of the studio? You never sell anything. Do you have your 2-inch tape machines there? This, Studer 800 MK3s. So, of course.
The size of wash machines for those who are too young
big
to know.
Big one.
Yeah, big one. So let me just for fun show everybody real quick. I have a souvenir 24-inch 2-inch tape reel, right? Where is it? Right there from a project I did. So that's what we're talking about, kids. Not little cassette tapes, but big tape.
Yeah, 2-inch tapes. I mean, so I came home from the tour and went down to the basement. Abbott was in a full area, was packed, everything, because we work only digital. So I was putting on to our studio elevator. I was bringing it up, and I called the guys who were retired already, engineers who can line it up and all the rest of it. So I said, guys, let's. And he said, Leslie, 25 years ago, as you were putting it down to the cell, everything was working. So let's look it up. So we just made a little refreshment about 2-3 days, and all of a sudden everything was fine. And so I checked it. I played the little drums, like some grooves, and I said, wait a minute, this tape compression, we just forgot how tape compression sounds like. Fabulous, great. So my son walked in and said, Dad, this sounds great. What the hell are you doing here? And I said, look, this is a handwritten love letter to our audience, not a text message. And he
Great
asked
way
his
to put it.
girlfriend, I said, and what is the difference, Dad? I said, look, I mean, earlier days in an analog recording, the art, the creation, the creativity was happening during the recording.
Right.
Today, it's happening in a post-production.
Yeah, you're right.
Totally
And,
different ballgame.
yeah, and I think sonically, a lot of people of our generation and who are familiar with not only listening to analog but recording with analog, I think the real value of the sonic qualities weren't completely appreciated until the CD came out, because the sound was so different, and the tonal spectrum and everything. And people who've never heard something recorded completely analog and played on an analog product really didn't know until then, and it's great that you've recorded it that way and put it out that way.
Thank you so much. I mean, the sonically is a total different ball game, as you're
Yeah.
just saying it, because even if you're just using a smartphone, a little speaker, even then you will hear that
Yeah.
the bass is different, the highs are different, the mids are different, and the tape compression is so human. And this technology was growing for about 60 years, and to get this human sound, the aesthetic of the sound is just fabulous. It's just great. So basically, we were just doing it for two different reasons. One is to capture the art during the recording, and because all of a sudden you don't have a great limitation, but in digital you don't have any limitation. 25 tracks for 25 guitar solos, and then you can comp it, And now you
Right.
have one guitar solo track, and you play everything together. And this one solo must sit, because and sit together at the same time with everybody else. So this magic, what we have, practiced every day earlier in the years, all of a sudden walked into the studio, the magic. So
Right.
because we had that pressure, the red light was on. I didn't have light bulbs in the red light thing box anymore. So because it
Yeah.
was the digital doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden matters a lot. So at the sonic result, so the sound aesthetic was one, and the other one was this magic, and at the end of the day, as I just mentioned to you, this is like a handwritten love letter to our audience, and pop music is very often like a text message.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Here's the cover, folks. And I love that you do have the lineup on the cover. Steve mentioned before we started that the other albums he has are albums, vinyl, that was first produced as a product on CD, most of them, and then put to vinyl. Whereas he said that your album sounds completely different because it was initially recorded on analog and then pressed on an analog product. And he immediately can tell the difference, which is really cool. Where do the stories come from, and how much lyrically and how much musical collaboration was there between you and the other players? Was there a lot of free reign? Did you write out charts? Was it magic that happened spontaneously in the studio? But first, start with the stories, with the lyrics, and where all that comes from.
Actually, the stories are two different. The most of the stories are extremely about these trying times what we are living in. What I call it on the record is this multiple crisis and this labyrinth of crisis, and the compass is lost. And the stories, the most of them came from the momentum that our last album has a song which Utopia of Realist is the title of the last album, and the last song on the last album is called The Torch, and it's saying that we old rebels, we just passing on the torch to our kids. Like your son is in the back and my son is in my back. Then I started to tell, on an anniversary tour, at the end of our show, said, actually, I wrote this song to pass on the torch, but the world turned to be a mess. So we just cannot pass on the torch, right?
For the sake of passing, right?
Yeah. So rather, let's unite the young rebels, so our children, and us old rebels, and let's try to fix it before we pass on the torch.
Right.
So that was the basic idea to this record. So that's the So I started, with Blood on the Water, and there is Encyclopedia, and so We Stay Loud, and then I came up with that song, what we call Big Quit. Hard times
Yeah.
create hard people.
Yeah.
Hard people create easy times.
Yeah.
Easy times create easy people, and easy people create hard times again. And
Yeah.
that's exactly where we are at. So it's a circle in the round. This is no way out.
Right.
So,
Loop.
so that
Yeah.
all this came up, and I wrote it, and that's why Tony Carey said, "I hate you," because it's so fresh, so young, so dynamic in a way, and so but an explosion in songwriting. That was his point, and he's a really great songwriter. So, um, but
Well,
we
it also speaks to your young spirit, and being young at heart. And often, but not always, often that goes with being an artist, being a musician, being a drummer, and it's showing through in your music. And he recognized that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and all of a sudden I felt that this energy in me, that in this divided world we're living in, this is we all feel this divide,
Yeah.
the vision, and it goes through families, through groups, and companies, and gangs, and so and the nations, and and music is the greatest unifier. So I just started to feel the responsibility, that we have to build those bridges again, to humanity, and just let's find out what is mutual, what is common, what brings us together, not what is dividing us. So let's
Right.
get out of our comfort zone. Let's get out of our echo chambers. So let's reset a little bit, and try to find each other's hand. And that's why I was trying to write those songs in these trying, challenging times, as an answer, as a kind of light at the end of the dark tunnel. So
Yeah.
that's why We Stay Loud. So just take responsibility, like Woodstock 4.0. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's
this
perfect.
is the idea.
I'm
And
going to read some song titles for everybody, but I also want everyone to understand the reason why I'm not cutting in video or music. In case you don't know, it's obvious to those who know, but if we do that, it's an official release, and there's algorithms in place that will hear or recognize the sonic fingerprint, and then it mutes it, snags it, pulls down the content. We don't want to mess with that. We want to have a great interview with Leslie. So go get it. The link is in the post. But some of the song titles, I'm going to put them right in front of me. We've got Blood in the Water, Enigma of Reason, which Steve said he really liked, The Wanderer, Mandoki Soulmates, The Big Quit, as you just mentioned. We've got Devil's Encyclopedia. That's one of my favorites. I love that song. A Memory of My Future, the title track. And what a great phrase as well. Maybe does that refer to the future we've always imagined, and that's why it's in our memory?
yeah, absolutely. That's what
It's
it's all about.
perfect. Yeah. And then we've got I Am Because You Are, My Share of Your Life, Age of Thought, Matchbox Racing, We Stay Loud has been mentioned, and Melting Pot, which is truly the world now. It's really a great piece of work. And again, for those joining us now, you look at that list of artists that have joined Leslie for this, and since 1992, you've been working at this. It's not going to be, I think, what most people expect when they see people like Simon Phillips, Tony Carey, Al de Meola, one of the Brecker brothers. It's like a whole different thing. And I love that because you've pulled elements from everybody's artistry and created this whole other thing, which is great. So how did the musicality come together for the album in the studio and or the writing process?
This time, because we decided to write the songs before we record, and we do the recording process in a traditional analog way. So I was not programming anything. So it were not demos. No demos, No, usually I'm programming, and you print out the sheets and all this. None of them. So it was like with the pencil, old way. So everything became, like we have learned it.
Nice.
To pencil it down. Of course, I printed out the lyrics, but that everybody can really read it. But so it was just a structure. And so we got together, not to record, but we had something very old-fashioned. We had reading rehearsals.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
like a
that's
TV show.
yeah, you sit around in the studio, piano, acoustic guitar, just the percussion, and no microphones, nothing. You just thinking of it because you don't want to play it because maybe you catch up the first track.
Yeah.
So this is just going through. Oh, we can extend that 8 bars to 16 bars, or let put the modulation in here. Here maybe we should create a longer outro, the coda here. Maybe we should double the chorus, but what about if someone takes it over and make it a quint higher? So it was fantastic, because we were not playing, so we were just I was just presenting the whole songwriting, and we were just talking over, and like something like Big Quit. You cannot, do it in a digital recording because
Right.
it was a collective. So it was not like 8 bars, Meola, 8 bars, Maestro, 8 bars, Richard Bona, 8 bars. It's not like that. So it was just, collectively. So we did it together, and that's what you hear. That's the magic, So
Nice.
all of a sudden, as I said before, two total separate issues. One is the sonic. That sounds fantastic, the analog recording, but the other one was the making of it, because this paperwork, and then have a break, then have a cup of coffee, and talking about. You went down to. I'm just here at the waterfront, so went down to the lake. We just canoeing a little bit, paddling, and then okay, let's hit it. And you won't believe, but most of the songs are first takes because
Wow.
because that procedure, that to inhale it, the whole
Yeah.
ideology, just creating the songs. At the end of the day, yes, I wrote them, but the and one is written, and one was very funny. One was written by my daughter in a way that three. I mean, the whole album is extremely about these trying times, but we are living in. But there are some more personal songs like the Wanderer and because of you and maybe the most personal one is the Matchbox Racing, and for
Oh,
you as an American, and you have some roots back in Ukraine, Odessa, whatever wonderful city
yeah.
where you mentioned that your great grandparents are coming from. I played there, so of course way before the war.
I
Wonderful.
still have mine. Want to see them? So I've got the Hot Wheel case there where I can't point. Yeah, the Hot Wheel
Yeah.
case is there. And I have a blue Matchbox case that I thought was right there too. It must be behind it. Yeah. So same.
You
Worlds
see,
apart in one way, but worlds the same in so many
yeah,
others.
very much so. So imagine I was 3.5 years old as the Russians tear down again the Hungarian uprising against communism.
Mm-hmm.
And and 3 students just got shot by the Russians and Red Army, and they died in our kitchen. And I was
Oh,
invited to a children's, place. I'm just locked in there, but dying is loud. And my father took one of the machine guns and went to fight against the Russian tanks and all. And so the Americans came before the Russians were tearing totally down the uprising, and were collecting the freedom fighters, one of the leaders, and my father was one of them.
oh wow.
But my mother didn't want to leave, and my father asked the sister of my mom, and she walks over with her son and with her husband, took my mom into that she have to pack because the Americans are coming in within 20 minutes. And my mom said, "No, I'm gonna stay for labor. I'm Hungarian, whatever." And so
Oh,
the sister of my mom and her husband and her son gets into the American army vehicle and escapes as a Mandoki family. But they were
okay.
not. But so because they said, okay, now we take the chance, we go to America, and became American. And they were sending me later on, as I was approximately 9 years old, postcards from LA with 3 Matchbox cars.
Oh wow.
And this postcard was showing LAX, this huge parking lot with all the different colorful cars,
Yeah.
you know, and so and for me that was freedom. That's what it was not a parking lot. It was not an airport parking lot. It was not a toy car. It was freedom.
Yeah,
So
it represented liberation too, right?
absolutely. And then the first and deepest tragedy of my life, actually the only tragedy of my life, it was as I was 16 and my father died because he lost his fight against cancer. And at his deathbed, I'm sitting there as his firstborn son, as he said, "My son, you have to promise me something." It was dramatic. And he said, "You should promise me that my grandchildren, who will I never get to know, that my grandchildren will never ever have to read censored papers."
Hmm.
And I said, "Dad, how should I promise you this? I mean, there is the Iron Curtain."
Yeah, and not knowing how things were going to go.
And he said to me, and this is the chorus of the song, he said to me, "Boy, the Iron Curtain is not for you. Go and live your dreams and don't dream your life."
Hmm.
And this became the chorus line of that particular song, telling about the matchbox,
Yeah,
the
how
racing.
interesting. What a
Yeah,
great story. I'm glad that it has such a personal stamp for you that goes, way back. And I see a couple comments. Steve's actually chiming in. He says, yeah, the sound of the album on the vinyl compared to the digital is much closer together rather than hearing a vinyl pressing of something and a CD from something, and they just sound so different. That's because you recorded the old school way on analog. And then he says, I love the big booklet on the vinyl version and how the lyrics are laid out. So if you get the vinyl version, folks, you get some extra goodies, and that big booklet is really cool. And I like, I'm old school. I'm in my 60s, and I was like mad when CDs came out. First of all, okay, now I need a new player for this stuff, but the whole shrinkage of everything down to this, when for decades we had such wonderful graphic artists, photographers, people like Roger Dean and whatnot, creating
ah,
artwork that you could see, especially if there was a gatefold. And then it came down to something that I still have it on my desk, unless I left it in my studio. I keep a magnifying glass here, Leslie, because you can hardly read that stuff anymore, even with reading glasses. So that's one of the things I love about the big vinyl is back movement. And then there's imagine, just for a moment, Leslie, imagine people who never saw vinyl before this recent surge, grew up with CDs, and now, oh my gosh, that's what the artwork looks like. It's like a whole different experience just from the packaging point of view.
absolutely. The packaging point of view is great because that you're pointing this out, because this is really a part of the art. And if I'm telling today young kids to come to the studio, and they were wandering in the big desk and everything, and I said, guys, I mean, we had cycling engineers that they had the magic, to feel, that give the final touch of the mastering, how one song is followed by the other. And this your son is perfectly right. This album is totally generated for the four sides of the double vinyl, and this is actually the artwork, because I did the artwork, because
Oh, oh,
I'm,
that's right.
as I was 12, I wanted to be a painter, and as I was 14, I wanted to be a poet. And my father was a musician, and as I was 15, he said, "Now it's enough is enough, boy. As a painter, as a poet, you will never be able to support a family. So you have to study something serious, like music." And that's
That's so funny if you think about it. That's great. Beautiful.
they he was saying, okay, you go to the conservatory, and then you go to the academy, because one day you have to support the family, and this is the only way to do it. You become a musician, and talent is something that you have to be. So that's the he was giving me the path, and I'm very, very thankful. And my dad was a very, very, very seriously an anti-communist guy, and I
Right.
hated that idea. And he never been in America. He was never been outside of the country. But he said, my son and my grandchildren, one day they have to live in freedom. And we couldn't even dream of 89 as the wall come down. and the Hungarians destroyed the Iron Curtain that makes the Berlin Wall fallen. And I remember that Ronald Reagan was saying, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall and open the gate. And later on, actually, Henry Kissinger was awarding me, and later on, Mikhail Gorbachev was awarding me. I never will understand why, because I just wrote a couple of songs against the wall, and they thought that it was so important that an artist was raising the voice against the wall, and I was then again I was so pro-American, because I said without the American vision of individual freedom, we would not ever get that war, Cold War. Ending in peaceful way, and this album is about my own conflict with my own generation. That because we managed to bring down the wall in Berlin and destroy the Iron Curtain without one shot, without one dead. Right. So peaceful. We ended the evil nuclear Cold War in peace, and I thought we're gonna pass one day over, as you do to your son and I, to my children, a paradise, a human paradise, and all of a sudden we messed it up, and so this album is about how to get back to the track, what Woodstock was teaching us,
Yeah.
And that's why I say Woodstock 4.0, because Woodstock has a serious teaching about humanity. Let's make love, not war. And let's make music, not war. Music is the greatest unifier, and so on. So that's why a memory of our future. So let's stay loud for freedom, for peace, for humanity, and write songs about that. And not silly songs, but meaningful songs, and approaching this in a little poetical way, and so I'm incredibly happy and pleased and that you're having me in this show with a new album, because it means a lot to me, because to having the chance to your listeners to dive into a little deeper, how the songs are written, how we are recording it, why we're doing it, and just to finish up this little story of Matchbox Racing. So as my father said that I should live my dreams and I should not dream my life. I wrote the song, and I was just I had it as a writing. I was not recorded, but I had it writing, and I had to leave to London. And my little daughter, Julia, lives in Amsterdam, but she came home and she heard the song, and she calls me up in London and she's saying, "Well, Dad, it's just fantastic lyrics, but I don't like the music you wrote." And I just wrote another music to it. I just took your lyrics and I just wrote a new song. And what you hear on the record is written by Julia.
Oh, nice.
So she just took away just shredded my music, took my lyrics, and she wrote a new song. So it's a family. But maybe your listeners are keen about, how is this lineup comes together every, how stable it is. And I must admit, within this 31 year, no one left ever the group. So unfortunately, we have lost great players like Michael Brecker, like Victor Bailey. Very unfortunately, Craig Lake, John Lord, and Jack Bruce. So we lost great soulmates who are all playing now with Jimi Hendrix in heaven.
Yeah.
And that to make your listeners not understand how soulmates works. I was in London with Eric Clapton at the funeral of Jack Bruce, and we were just hanging late night in a favorite pub of Jack, and little celebrating his life and with friends and his kids, and then very late night my cell phone was ringing, and was Quincy Jones. He said, "Leslie, now you need a new bass player." And Richard Bona I'm going to introduce you in 4 days in New York. So you come over and you will get to know Richard Bona. So, and that's how Richard came in the band. And like John Lord died, and Cory Henry, a young
Yeah.
genius, or
Yeah.
Brooklyn came into the band. So that's why no one ever left the band, but we had some by
Life
tragical
changes.
losses as well. Like one of our greatest singers who is not performing on the record anymore, is Bobby Kimball, who was so
Yeah.
ill that he's not able to perform anymore,
Yeah.
and he's very very sick, and he about 4 years ago he. I mean, actually, the sickness was hitting him very hard, but we took him on the last tour,
Oh,
and we to say goodbye because we felt that he's losing totally, and sometimes he didn't really know where he is,
oh,
but we wanted to give him this celebration, you
that's
know,
so sweet.
and that to bring him on stage, the audience felt it, that and we gave him a jacket, as a founding member, and
Yeah.
so that in that way, we got a lot of new fresh elements into the band, with Cory Henry and Richard Bona and so on, and of
Right.
course we have guitar players like Aldi Meola and Mike Stern,
Yeah.
and some other records of us, also Steve Lukather, and so fantastic. And Richard Bona is a fantastic bass player, and they give his very American feel to it, but he's an African refugee
Yeah.
who came to Paris and ended up in Miami via New York City.
Right.
So this is so. Make the long story short, is a fantastic privilege, and I feel myself very honored that all these exceptional, legendary, iconic players are supporting us.
That's awesome. And before my next question, I want to share a comment from Steve. He said he watched the Mandoki Soulmates performance of Lucky Man with Greg Lake from 2013, and it sounded incredible. Yeah. I mean, so when you founded this, like over 30 years ago now, which must seem crazy, did you imagine? I mean, I know you want it, but did you imagine that you would get the players that you've gotten to be part of this family? And did you imagine it would have such stay power and be so relevant, maybe now more than ever with the material on this new album, 30 plus years forward?
Oh well, I'm a dreamer, but an earlier record I wrote a song for Soulmates called "A Dreamer Is Not a Fool," uh, and I think we should not follow our destiny. We should create our destiny.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
and it was the vision, and I believed in the vision. Like as much as Gabor Chupo believed that he has to go to Hollywood and create some great cartoons, and he started with Simpsons and followed by Rugrats and Real Masters and Darkman and all this.
Yeah.
So you just have to follow your dream. I mean, life is too short, unfortunately. So you have to make the best out of it.
Yeah, it drives me nuts when people say, so how are you doing? Oh, going with the flow. Direct the flow. It's
Yeah,
all in your hands. If you don't have the knowledge, learn it. If you don't have the skills, learn it. If you don't know what to do, ask someone who's done it. It's all there for us.
absolutely. And this is when the CIA guy was asking me in the refugee camp, I said, I mean, if you're so stupid, he said, that you dream of that you are going to play with Ian Anderson or Chattertal and Jack Bruce or Cream and Aldi. I said, what about if you fail? I said, you know what, boy? Freedom means that you are free to fail.
That's right. And
You know,
it's everything's a learning experience, which that would have
absolutely.
been had it not worked out, but it did.
And then because he was a very nice bloke, and he said, you know what? I'm so interested. How was in the communist time? I mean, and he said, look, it was very simple. Unemployment was criminal, so everybody had to be employed.
Yeah.
It was state-owned guarantee that everybody gets employed. Um, and if you were not employed for 3 months, that you got into jail. So the police was controlling your
Wow.
ID, that are you employed or not. So self-employment was not possible.
Yeah.
So for us artists, we studied, and we had a special permission that we don't have to be employed because we have a kind of license to be free.
Right.
So, I mean, of course, censored, but and no passport at all, but an ID. I never had a Hungarian passport. I always been censored, and so but and then I'll never forget the face of the CIA guy. Said, "Okay, now I'm just starting to understand where the whole energy comes from." That you guys are saying you really want to restart your life when you're 22, and that's what we were doing.
Did you happen to ever stay in touch with him or hear from him, the CIA guy who was trying to bring you down to earth? Like, does he know what you've done? Have you had any connection?
No, but I was trying, and I never. But what's happened? The German First Channel, the biggest TV network here, they made a documentary, and they went to that refugee camp, and they were talking to the German officer. He became funny wise the director of the camp. He was a young fellow back then, and they were showing the paperwork, but that the saying Eede Anderson, Meola, Jack Bruce, and they filmed it in a documentary. So
Oh,
it was
wow.
really, we never found an American guy, but we found the German because they always were a German guy and an American guy, and
How funny.
it was fantastic. So and everything was analog.
Yeah.
So actually the job of the CIA guy was to tell us, I'm saying, guys, welcome to freedom. Do you have any information for me?
That's great.
And I said, of course, a musician and a cartoonist, we have nothing.
Right. Well, you could have showed him a paradiddle.
yeah, actually, yes.
And let's talk about that.
Fast, clear, but and it always starts slow. Great product. Yeah,
That's funny. Let's talk about that. Well, let's talk about your roots in music and why drums.
Yeah, very simple. I was actually, I'm born to be a songwriter, and I was not even planned to be a drummer or be a singer. I was always singing to the singers in a teenage band, what to do. But then I just, it's pretty similar to Phil Collins. Then, okay, then I'm singing it before you don't get it, what I want to,
Yeah, totally.
Don't spoil it, my work. And drumming come, in the conservatory when you're about 15, and 16, everybody wants to be the front guy, having, to attract the girls, so to be the front man singer. And I was singing, and no one wanted to be the drummer.
Oh, wow.
But
I had no idea
it.
what they were missing out on, right, Leslie?
But I loved, always. I love to play, and so all of a sudden, I must have been 15, and I played pretty well drums, but the decision was not made that that's going to be my main instrument. And then it was in a conservatory, Bela Bartok, where I was at in a jazz department. They said you have to form in a school a band, just for studying reasons, and that's not being out on the road, just to say. And no one wanted to take the drum seat. And everybody said, no, because of the girls, have to play up front. I said, come on, guys. And I love to play. So actually, it was a spontaneous decision, but it remains for a lifetime. And it was so funny because I had a professor on drums, and it was my teacher. And he said, and he was pushing for that decision. He said that he thought that I have a special talent, and it was so funny because he kept on telling that I really gonna make it big, with a lot of golden records. I have about 70, and he said, you are the one who is going to make it big.
Wow.
And I don't know how he was, it's so strange because there was no reason to think that but he said, and I must admit, I spent my teenage time to practice. So so when all the other guys were chasing girls and going to do what you do when you are 16 and 17, I was not doing that. I was just in some damn cellars and basements and stinky places, and I just practiced like crazy. I have 3 bands, and on the whole weekends played with them, and and I always loved to play the drums, and it was one strange moment of my career. As I was a refugee, I became a pop superstar in Germany by accident. I didn't want it to be, but it happens to be. Sang a couple of #1 songs, and I was missing. I just hated to. I mean, still, I was singing those songs for about 42 years, but sometimes people are asking me, I said, why are you not doing that anymore at all? And then, but one of the reasons I couldn't play drums, and I was playing in the record, but I had to be a front guy, and I just feel myself home to play the drums, to practice every day, to tune my drums, set up my things, and I love it, and that's and of course because in the times as Lindrum came up, and
I remember Lindrum.
yeah, and then that was very fashionable to start the program, and I was fast on this, and then we got a Lin 9000 then later on, and I was taking from Los Angeles to Munich the first Lin 9000, and I was fast in programming, and back then everybody wanted to have a program drums of that sounds and all this. And then all of a sudden I did something what drummers normally not do. I just invented a lot of interesting, fancy percussion work, and really loved it. It was a period of time in the 80s and the second half of the 80s where almost everything were, and then program drums, and then I said, okay, well, especially I invented the Udo for myself. Yeah. And cajon way before it became fashionable. Wow. I started 85 with the Udo and the cajon thing, and so since then it's so funny because it's like this, that I'm sitting on a cajon on the drum set, not on a drum seat, and I have the middle of the drum set a big huge Udo, and I'm playing all the drums, so. I think no one could sit in my set. So if you watch the live videos, it's crazy. I
think your light went off, it looks like.
So it's really crazy. And but that's the way how I found myself, to play some percussion and to play the drums and the singing it. So I'm sitting in the front. But especially in the studio, I have 2 drum kits. I have a lot of drum kits, but in the studio, especially, I'm using 2 different kits. I'm using a traditional big, huge DW kit from '76. So in the meantime, it's vintage. Fantastic. I mean, it's a big kit with 7 toms. And
nice.
And with everything, whatever you imagine is there. So that's the big one, and that's how I'm playing the on the records. But also using for recording what I'm using on the road. That I have 2 Noble and Cooley toms.
Nice.
And left of them is the highest 3 rotor toms that I have a run of toms. But it's a djembe on the right side. I'm sitting on a cajon. I have a Udo in the middle, a Noble and Cooley snare drum, and the Gretsch, the 16-inch bass drum. So and then a bongo there, and the normal ride, normal crash, and then hand cymbals left and right. So and beltry and Mark III chimes. So this is a fantastic setup. I love it.
Great. Sounds fun. Before I ask you about touring, I want to ask you about, and before I ask you about that, did your light go off or something in the room?
I'm sorry. Let me put up the light was not going off, but the
sun changed.
Yeah, no, just because we are on the top of my studio complex, and it's a waterfront place, and we're sitting in the top of the building in my office, and it's just glass all over, and the top and the side and the front, everything, and it's nighttime. I'm just evening, So
Yeah,
sun went down.
9 hours ahead.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I just
that's
broke
okay.
I'm sorry for that.
That's all right.
Now you can see a little bit more.
There it is. Yep.
I'm sorry for that.
No, that's okay. So before we ask about touring, tell us about the big live event that's coming up August 15th.
Oh yeah, well, this year, I mean, this is always normally other people are not diving into that deep into the music like you do, and I'm very thankful that you do. The most logical question: how are you coordinating this? Guys getting into the studio or getting out and play,
Right.
and so it's challenging. And sometimes we can play a lot. Sometimes we have a kind of a limitation of how we can get everybody a same period of time. And this time we are going to be August 15th in Munich and August 18th in Budapest. This is great because one is my hometown is Munich,
Yeah.
the place where I was born in Budapest. In Budapest, we are expecting about 35,000 people. Big opener, was a big opener in Germany and Munich. So, and how are we doing it? And we're going to play the new records, so we have to practice now. Actually, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, I really have to start to practice. So to write the chart, the live versions, and all this. And I'm very, very, very happy. So everybody's coming, of course, and big lineup, and huge lineup. And I'm now tomorrow and the weekend. I'm just starting to write down the solos, and to share everything. That reshare that we the mostly we're gonna play it like on the record, but we have auto cues and everything is on the screens for when we rehearse, that no one has to look into the sheet music that comes on the screen. So we have a system how to do it.
That's great.
And everybody in the solos, so we have a different color on the screen for the rehearsals that easy to follow, fast to follow, and so I've been doing it for such a long time, and technology was helping us to grow with this. And in the meantime, of course, everything is in ear, and so we're not getting deafer.
Right.
As a drummer, always loud.
Yeah, I do. I'm wearing hearing aids because of that.
Yeah.
And then are you going on tour? Are you touring Europe or the US or anything?
Actually, you're touching on a very fundamental issue about the US. We never toured the US. Once we were invited by the Grammy organization to the Beacon Theater in New York City, where the famous Beacon Theater where Scorsese was shooting Shine a Line with the Stones.
Yeah.
But about that, we never really played in America, and I don't know why. Probably we just don't have the right agent. But now, because of the record what we was putting out in America, now we are negotiating, and I really hope to play and tour. And maybe we start a little bit smaller than in Europe. We're not expecting 35,000 people like here we do, but I actually put this way around. I'm really happy that you having me at this wonderful show now, because it's one of the stones, as a stone by stone, bit by bit, step by step, to get there. That we would like to set up an American tour, and hopefully one day we meet then in person.
That'd be awesome. We would love that, folks. You can get the album; it's already out, and it's Mandoki Soulmates, a memory of our future. He also painted the beautiful cover, a star-studded lineup. It's a great album. Get it on vinyl. And if you don't have something to play it on, this album alone will be worth going to get something to play it on. And like my son Steve, our producer, chimed in and said, it comes with a great booklet with the way the lyrics are laid out and everything. And we'd love to have you on again sometime and talk about what's next after this. You seem like the kind of guy who thinks ahead a lot, which would really be great. And I have one closing question. This is the Leslie Mandoki fun fact question. And my question for you, Leslie, is when you are completely separated from writing music, playing music, rehearsing music, setting up fun drum sets, performing, record. When you're away from music, what do you like to do? Give us a peek behind that curtain. What do you like to do outside of music?
I mean, maybe probably two things, well, or maybe three, maybe four things. I mean,
Okay, you can give them all up if you like.
number one, my kids. They're grown up like your son,
Yeah.
but they're adults. But I just if I cannot speak to one of them a day, then I have a painful moment of life. So my kids they're taking a huge part of my life.
Great.
The second part, I'm really interested to make the world to be a better place. So
Nice.
far, I have a sort of interest in the political world, but only that far that I take responsibility and I say my voice is only as loud and as strong as the love of my audience is giving me the permission to be loud.
Mm,
And this is a responsibility. And because of the leading politicians taking me very serious and they listen to me, I know this is a responsibility. So raise I every now and then I raise my voice for humanity, for peace, for freedom, for basic elements of life, for respect. And the third thing, I love to cook.
nice.
Uh,
Same here.
I just and maybe the only dispute ever of in a band is who is going to cook tonight when we
Oh,
are
that's
having.
great.
And the fourth and a final thing, because I'm living now over 30 years by the lake. Starnberg is very close to Munich, like outskirts of Munich, and the Alpine areas. And I have at the end of the ground. And I'm just actually the studio and my house is separated by a mile, but the end of my ground is a boat house with the canoeing, and that's what I love to do. To take my canoe out and in the early morning or late night, and moonshine and just canoeing. There's a big lake,
Nice.
and also in summer the Alps are snowing at the top, and it's hot here, but you just have this view, and it's like a postcard. So it's just beautiful. I love this. So these are the four things when I'm spending
That's
time
great.
and I'm not creating music.
That's awesome. Thank you. And thank you for taking time at night. Late, it's getting later there as we speak. It's almost 10 o'clock, coming up on 10 p.m. there, 2200 hours, as it were, in that time clock. And we'd love to have you on again sometime. And folks, thank you for joining Leslie Mandoki and myself. Get the album. We'll show it one more time. The link is in the post wherever you're seeing this. And if you're in the area to see them out in Germany and Budapest on August 15th and 18th, respectively, go see that show. It's going to be a real treat, I'm sure. And Leslie, hang on the line with me for a moment after we disconnect from the audience. Thanks. And thank
But you
you.
know what, Don?
Yeah.
Before you leave,
Yes.
I would love to give your audience something very special.
Okay.
Offering you, why don't you just stream our show from Budapest live?
Oh, wow. Nice. I would love to be able to do that.
I mean, because we are going to stream anyway, and
Okay.
but no one. I'm more than happy to give you the American stream for that.
Oh,
Because
thank you.
what a
Let's
nice
talk about that.
token. Then it's a long show. It's about 3.5, 4 hours, no
Great.
break. And sometimes have to speak Hungarian to the Hungarians, but everything is in English.
Yeah.
Part of my some little speeches, and so I'm more than happy to offer you this.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. We'll talk about that and in just a moment. Folks, thanks for joining us. We will see you again soon, and more of Leslie coming as well. Thanks, everybody.